Seguimos en el Mobile World Congress de Barcelona cubriendo el evento de telecomunicaciones que saben que se está celebrando esta semana y que está colapsando el mundo del sector aquí en esta ciudad, y tenemos con nosotros a Andy Germano, que es de el Small Cell Forum, y a Tiago del Wireless Broadband Alliance, que han venido a hablar de temas relacionados con justamente la integración de Wi-Fi con las redes macro y las small cells. Voy a cambiar al inglés, que es el idioma común que tenemos los tres. Andy, Tiago, welcome to telesemana.com for this video interview. Obviously, I'm not going to be discussing topics off topic. You are from the Small Cell Forum, you are from the Wireless Broadband Alliance. I'll start with you first. Tell me an update on what's happening with the small cells. And I warn you that I'm going to put you on the spot, and I'm going to make you compete, because I've been in a conference this morning where Wi-Fi and small cells were competing. So I'm going to try to put you on the spot on that. But
okay,
you're first.
So the Small Cell Forum, the big news for us, we have our release this week of the rural and remote small cell release. So this is our fourth release. The first one was residential.
Oh, you released the fourth release here?
Yes, released it here this week at Mobile World. The first release was residential. The second one was focused on enterprise deployments, which is really important for South America. And then the third one was urban deployments, really focusing on urban. We actually broke that into two releases because it was so comprehensive. It was the first time where originally small cells were defined to be an indoor solution. You had, getting that signal from the macro network on the outside through the building. I'm sure everybody's experienced, inside where there's a poor signal. It's just more of a coverage play. Whereas with the urban environment, we all know, like in the big cities, like Buenos Aires, there's a lot of people, and capacity becomes the issue. So I just saw a really interesting presentation today from AT&T where they showed in New York City, which is a very difficult environment, like these big cities, Buenos Aires, Rio de Janeiro. You have all these buildings, you have these urban canyons. And if you can find the high traffic areas with the poor coverage, you put one small cell in there and it offloads the traffic. So that third release was really focused on the urban solutions, these outdoor solutions. And now this rural and remote is focused, there's 1 billion people in the world that are uncovered. They have no mobile service at all. So many of these people actually live in villages, though. It's not like a hermit living all the way alone, by himself. They're in a village, but it's just not cost effective to be connected to the rest of the network. They're usually like remote islands of population. So what we're seeing is the use of small cells in these remote villages, and maybe satellite backhaul or point-to-point, type of microwave to these areas can provide coverage. So when we talk about this rural and remote this week, it's a big part of it is about these remote villages. In fact, the study that came out showed there's $1 trillion of GDP from the coverage of these remote villages, these 1 billion people, and it represents over $200 billion in incremental revenue for mobile operators to cover these people. But the other side of rural is what we call rural and remote. So we're also using small cells to cover oil platforms, oil rigs, remote mining camps. We're using small cells to provide coverage on cruise ships, airplanes, and then there's a lot of government applications where you may have, maybe there's a forest fire, and you want it, nobody's there normally, but all of a sudden, people are there to service this disaster. Or we saw cases in Japan where they had an earthquake, and it took out like 80% of the towers. Yeah. And so what they've developed over the years is a cell on wheels, and they use a small cell in a van with a satellite, and they can deploy coverage and get coverage up in a matter of hours to reinstall coverage. And what they found from their subscribers is coverage is the most important thing. So now they're taking it to the next level. They are putting small cells along train routes where there's remote areas, but people like to go hiking and visit. The only living thing up there is bears, but now they have people that are hiking and they want to have a signal. And so they have really interesting using satellite backhaul with small cells.
I thought you were going to say small cells on bears. I was going to say on wheels and bears. Wow, this is getting complicated. Tiago, what's news from the Wireless Broadband Alliance? And then I'll put you on the spot, I promise.
Thank you so much, Rafael, for this opportunity. And really on Wi-Fi, the traffic on the Wi-Fi public hotspots is really exploding over the last month. Hot topics like Wi-Fi calling, it's right on the agenda of the majority of our carriers and members. But really what I want to point out on this conversation is the partnership that we did with SMA here for Mobile World Congress.
Okay.
We have a next generation hotspot live demonstration throughout the entire field. So we have 35 operators from all over the world, like companies like AT&T, NTT Docomo, Sprint, British Telecom, Mobile from Middle East, or Do from Middle East as well. From Brazil, we have Intel partnering with us. Basically, they all are demonstrating seamless Wi-Fi roaming throughout the FIRA. So you can feel and understand how
throughout the FIRA?
Throughout the entire FIRA, and you can understand how easy it is to use, for example, your SIM card credentials to get authentication on Wi-Fi.
Okay, for people who doesn't know what FIRA is the place where we are at Mobile World Congress. So it's just the exhibition floor, it's covered with Wi-Fi. And now I'm going to put you in the spot because you mentioned voice over Wi-Fi. And what I heard is that now operators or companies are saying that there's going to be a competition between Wi-Fi and small cells because of voice over Wi-Fi. Like some people are saying, well, now that operators are going to be able to offer that through Wi-Fi, they might not implement small cells. And some others say no, because small cells are more robust than Wi-Fi, and thus operators are going to prefer the small cells. In the past, when we discussed the relationship between Wi-Fi access points and small cells, usually they have a complementary role. In this show is the first time when somebody or some companies have said, now they are colliding. What's your take? First you, and then...
So, yeah, it's a really interesting question. When Femto cells first came out for the residential application, everybody was saying, it was Femto versus Wi-Fi. Some of the original presentations I saw, they were trying to decide, there had already been 1 billion Wi-Fi chips, shipped. So everybody's already using, Wi-Fi. Why do they need a Femto cell or a small cell? And over the years, the WBA is an organization that really works on what we call carrier class Wi-Fi. So this is ruggedized Wi-Fi that can be offered as a carrier class service, the high level of quality that a mobile operator needs to offer for their customers. So we've actually worked together over the past 3 years defining what we call integrated small cell with Wi-Fi. So there's always going to be new features coming out, like Wi-Fi calling, or some new features like what the big news this week here in Mobile World Congress is LAA, which is licensed assisted access. So this is a place where Wi-Fi is operating in the unlicensed bands, and now LTE will be operating in the unlicensed bands. And we see a big play for small cells in that area. In fact, most of the small cells that are shipping in the industry have 3G, LTE, and Wi-Fi on the same box, because it makes so much sense. Now the work that we did together allows mobile operators to provide the best quality of service to their customers, because the issue for the consumer, you don't want to go into your mobile and turn on a hotspot and then you go somewhere else, another hotspot. That's why we have like hotspot 2.0. So we work together, what's the best way? When I come to Barcelona, I turn my phone on the airplane, boom, it knows who I am. I'm here, it's working. I get my text message, I make my phone call. With Wi-Fi, before Hotspot 2.0, there was the logging in, procedure. But now, we thought, hey, let's put the mobile together with the Wi-Fi. We have so much better service. Also, with integrated Wi-Fi, we take it to the next level. We really want to deliver. Our mobile operator customers want to deliver the best quality of experience to their customers. So, when you have a large file download, the customer doesn't know the best way, if it's Wi-Fi or if it's LTE or 3G. So we want the network to be intelligent. Let the network make the decision. And there's really different places in the network. You want to look at the handset. The handset knows the local environment of the RF. The macro cell has some information. The small cell has information. And the backhaul is important to look at, and also the actual access to the internet itself. So we look at all 4 areas of the work that we're defining together so that the network can pick the best way to go. So you don't have to worry, oh, I'm near a Starbucks, I should go on Wi-Fi. Sometimes it doesn't work so good. Sometimes LTE is better. Sometimes the Wi-Fi is better. It just depends on the situation. But we're working towards integrated network.
You are still working together on that project, or is that something that was
together? We published a paper together on it. Yes.
We have a joint team together.
Still working on.
We meet every week.
Okay.
Okay.
Interesting.
In fact, we've even taken it to the level where not only you can make the best choice for service delivery, but you can combine services. So in some cases, like you may want to download a video file, it may be a very big file, and in order to get you on and off the network as quickly as possible, it's more efficient for you, it's also more efficient for the network operator. So we can actually combine together Wi-Fi and LTE and provide the download coming off both together.
What do you call Wi-Fi Boost or something like that?
It's integrated Wi-Fi.
Or integrated Wi-Fi. Yeah.
Yes.
I think what Andy is talking about the intelligence of the network and the policy, the ability of the carriers to create policy on top of the network is really key. because we can have specific requirements from different users. For example, the three of us, we can be on a specific location, and depending on the type of services that I'm using, or I'm watching a video that is looking to the email, and you, Rafael, you are doing web browsing, and probably you can have different technologies behind. I can be on Wi-Fi, and you can be on LTE, and you can be on 3G, and it's up to the operator to have the ability and the capacity, with all the proper mechanisms, to optimize the service and usability of the internet and all the data consumption. And I think when you combine all these technologies, and if you are able to create intelligence, a layer of intelligence on top of that, you really are making the life of the carriers much easier. Nevertheless, there is one angle that is right.
I knew.
I think there is always specific use cases where it makes more sense to put a small cell,
Compete a little bit.
Wi-Fi, or put the macro cell, and the operators, they know exactly which are those use cases. But there is a huge benefit of having
Both.
like both and different layers of technologies that can give the ability for them basically to optimize the throughput of the different services.
Excellent. Andy, oh,
No, I was just going to say,
Very
a lot of
quickly.
times when the new technologies come, the first thinking is like a debate or either or. Which one is it? But
Well,
the reality, what we see over time is a lot of times, it's both. I mean, I think Wi-Fi is going to be around in the enterprise for a very long time. But if you think about what's the most important thing for a business, it's the voice communications. They want to make sure they have brilliant communications. They can't afford to have a drop call. They can't afford to have a staticky, line. So they're going to invest in that business. And there's such a high percentage of buildings, in-building coverage that needs help with small cells. That's what small cells delivers. It brings the signal from the outside and puts it in the inside where the people are. And so I think we're going to continue to see huge growth, huge opportunity in small cells. And of course, Wi-Fi is not going away. Wi-Fi is evolving and getting better.
No, and there is the history just told us that as much more capacity we put available,
The better.
more consumption there is. This is not a replacement of capacities. As much as we put it available, more consumption will appear from the customer.
excellent.
The latest years have told us that.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much, guys, and have a good show. I need to
Great.
cut because
Thank
my
you.
time is running out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Thank you.
Andy.